Bucky fucking Dent. That's all I have to say. Bucky fucking Dent. Now, good morning, everybody. Great to be with you after an unbelievable weekend of South Florida sports activity and sports activity in general. Once again, if ever I could leave you, how could it be in springtime? You couldn't ask for any more action, any more excitement than you're getting from the sporting world right now, especially if you happen to be a South Florida sports fan. I'm Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie. Lubitz, welcome to another edition of Defo and 5 here in 5 Reasons Sports Network, where the Heat Nation has to be going crazy. But I think as big as that victory was over the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden yesterday, I haven't seen Garden fans as stunned at the Garden at Madison Square Garden, the supposed mecca of basketball, which I don't know that it is anymore. But the last time I saw a crowd as aghast as the one that we saw leaving the building after the Heat's 108-101 victory over the New York Knicks in game number one was when it was announced that Arnold Skolden, the golden boy from White Plains, New York, would be substituting for the great Bruno Sammartino against Gorilla Monsoon in what was supposed to be a Texas steel cage match, fight to the death. And Skolin had no chance. And then, of course, the story is legendary. San Martino's plane was late. He shows up with two suitcases at the top of the stairs at the stairway to the ring, and then comes rolling down while still wearing a suit and tie, beats Monsoon after and saves the life of Arnold Skolin, the Golden Boy. And the crowd was absolutely stunned. But the hockey game has to eclipse everything. And you have to go back, Lubie, to Friday night. Do you not? What was that? I mean, it's always easy to say this, so we talk about it all the time. The latest always seems to be the greatest. But in 30 years of watching Panther hockey, I would have to say that was the Friday night game was the most exciting hockey game that I've ever seen the Florida Panthers involved in, especially since they came out on the winning side. Some would say that game four against Colorado going back to 1996, what was that, double or triple overtime at 0-0, and the Bees were going back and forth. But that was as wild a game as I've ever seen the Friday night game to set up what turned out to be a decisive and obviously pivotal game seven. And yet, I don't know that even this 4-3 overtime victory eclipsed what happened on Friday night. Lubie, what did you think about all of this? Because you are so ready to hang Sergei Bobrovsky out to dry. Every time this guy gives up a goal, you're like, that slow, fat piece of shit. I can't believe that he couldn't stop that. But even in the game yesterday, I thought of the three goals that he gave up to the Boston Bruins. Really only one, that one that had the long rebound, was one that you could look at and go, come on, Bobrovsky, you can do better than that. The other two, really, I don't know that he had much that he could have done. That one deflection by Bertuzzi that put the Bruins ahead, I thought, I guess it tied the game. Impossible to stop that because it tipped off a stick right in front of the goal and took a radical dip. I mean, it looked like a forkball, at the height of Mike Scott's game where the thing just, looked like it had a gyroscope in it. I don't know that anybody could have stopped that. But what did you think? I mean, the Friday game, was enough to get you so excited that even had the Panthers lost in a lackluster fashion on Sunday, you still would have said this was one hell of an effort, one hell of a series.
Yeah, it's just funny what we saw from this team for more than 3/4 of a season. Was erased by the last month plus and these playoffs. Yeah, the fact they were down 3-1, and that's not getting mentioned enough. Not only they vanquished number one overall seed in hockey history, but they were down 3-1 to that seed. But the games were outside of that 6-2 game. The games were close and they were in it, and they had heart in a way we hadn't seen from them for most of the season. And then the last three games came, and it was something we've never seen from this franchise since 1996. After that playoff run in 1996, this franchise has gone to the doldrums. And I don't know what the hell happened. Maybe the Heat culture was sprinkled on the Panthers because Matt Tkachuk, you talk about, it's so funny. You gave credit to this trade even before they made the playoffs. The culture, quote unquote, of this organization is night and day with Matthew Tkachuk out there as it is to Jonathan. Like Huberdeau and Barkov are such the same dude, and Matt Tkachuk is just some fucking throwback from like the 1960s. Like the way the dude plays, where he's your star, but he's the one setting the screen that allows the final goal. He's the one mixing it up behind the goalie just to keep the puck there so someone can take it from him so he then can set like the fact that he plays both ends of the ice and you can't tell sometimes what position he is. Like I couldn't tell if he's a defenseman or if he's a wing the way he plays hockey. It's like this whole team took it up, and even the French Joe Philbin couldn't hold them back. Like the last from this franchise was something look, Mike Mayo is a believer, and that guy's the biggest cynic we've ever seen when it comes to the Panthers. Like, it's just amazing to see.
He hates him. There's subliminal things that are behind the fact that he roots against them with every emotional fiber that he's able to muster up. And that goes back to being insulted by Doug Sifu, who was an executive with the team. But I mean, are they making believers out of people? You would have to think so. I mean, they're on to the second round against Toronto, and the amazing thing is that that's only one round.
I know.
I mean, you talk about a difficult trophy to win. It's one thing in basketball to get out of that first series and you have a veritable basketball bloodbath, but there is nothing. If you looked across the board at the NHL playoffs in the first round, I mean, there's still one more to be decided. And you had game sevens all over the place, including two yesterday, and both ended up in shockers as you had Florida eliminate the Boston Bruins and then Seattle, an expansion team, for God's sake, taking out the Colorado Avalanche. So you had an historically great number one seed President's Cup winner, once again being victimized by the President's Cup jinx and going out this time in shocking fashion in the first round. And then the defending Stanley Cup champions get beat by the Seattle Kraken. We don't even know what a Kraken is. You talk about ash and white. I mean, the people in both of those arenas were completely stunned. I happened to stay up and watch. I caught the end of the Seattle game against Colorado, and I think people are still sitting in the stands crying in Colorado. It's amazing what's happened in this postseason. So wild stuff all the way around. And how about the Panthers tying the game up again around the final minute by pulling the goalie and scoring in a 6-on-5 situation? How gut wrenching was this? The worst letdown I think since the trade of the Bambino. No, was it bigger than Bucky Dent? I believe it was. This upset by the Florida Panthers, and now moving on to the second round, Toronto took out the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that series was no bargain. If you were back in the Toronto Maple Leafs, you had to be laced with anxiety the entire time because the Leafs twice came back and stole games from the Tampa Bay Lightning when it looked like they were hopelessly out of it. They had a couple of situations where they scored in the final minute and took the game to overtime and then won in OT. So very, very tight, everything that was happening round one. And I couldn't get over the fact that was only round one. And look what you have to do. I mean, it's monumental to think that you still need to win 3 more of these series to win the Stanley Cup, which is why I don't care what they do in celebration after. It's fantastic. The tradition of everybody getting to sleep with the cup that's on the winning team, and they all do different things with it. Some of them are kind of funny and very playful, but I mean, the odds of the Panthers this year being able to even sniff the second round of the playoffs seemed slim and none. There were people that thought they'd be better off. I don't know that anybody thought that about the Panthers, but a lot of people, Lubie, thought that the Heat would be better off missing the playoffs. And here they are now playing great basketball, all of a sudden shooting lights out. Jimmy Butler's become as much of a star as anybody on any team in the NBA in terms of being, a main impetus in the success the team is having. And then getting contributions from sources that you had given up for dead. How many people wanted to see Kyle Lowry just run out of town? You were one of them.
All of
Yeah.
us. Talking about any Heat fan was done with Lowry.
You couldn't get a stack of a rapist for Kyle Lowry if you were offering him up in trade. Everybody was saying, "Hey, we got to go get somebody some help. Trade Lowry." And you're thinking that's impossible. Nobody's going to pick up Lowry. And then performing like a true veteran and coming through like a champ. Late game heroics by Kyle Lowry after Jimmy Butler rolled an ankle. And even though the Knicks, they weren't really making any excuses. They just shot the ball so poorly in this game that it would be impossible to conceive of them winning. They were 7 of 34 on 3-point shots. That's incredible, too, that the scoring is up, and yet the shooting on 3-point bombs is so poor. Kind of hard to figure out, right? Difficult to do the math on that. 7 of 34 for the Knicks in the game. They got only 11 second chance points. This is very uncharacteristic for this team. And they gave up on turnovers 22 points. to the Miami Heat on turnovers alone in this game.
See,
So
just because you're the king of if Vegas ran this country, who knows how great it
yeah,
would. Did you see what the over under total was?
had to be high.
No, it was 210 and a hook. Did you see what the final score was?
108, 101, 209.
Nine.
Well, the people were wrong about which side was going to come out on top. You would have made a fortune if you went ahead with the parlay, right? Because the Marlins also swept the Cubs over the weekend, and that one would fly very low. I mean, we had the Aaron C show, which
Yeah,
I don't know that you can fly any lower than the Blue Angels do. How the hell do they do that? The Blue Angels.
they almost take out your house. They're like right over your place.
It buzzed me. My hair was standing up like Don King. I was on my walk of life a couple of times now, and the Blue Angels all of a sudden out of nowhere because the sound comes. It seems like at a different time. You'll hear the sound and then the roar of the planes going by, and then you think, "Well, where are they?" And then all of a sudden, shoom, right over your head. Incredible. Out there on the A1A in Fort Lauderdale. We'll never forget. It's unfortunate what happened to these people because, and I can't say that it wasn't somewhat unanticipated. My flight with the French Connection when they had the Miami Air and Sea show many years ago, and this has to go back about 25, maybe 30 years. My buddy applies, Mike Fernandez, the cameraman that was working with me, a very innovative guy, now working with Fox Sports, and he wanted to fly with the Blue Angels, which you could apply for, but every other news media group in town applied for that. And I think Segreto ended up flying with the Blue Angels, Tony Segreto. So we couldn't, really bitch. We were minor league players compared to the great Tony Segreto at the time. So that they capitulated to having the biggest guy in town fly with the Blue Angels was fine. And I think it was also beneficial in that the G force, the gravity force, when you're flying in these type of planes, would be so overwhelming. You would think that if you had a weak stomach, it would not be good for the guy that was flying the plane, right? Because you're going to be spitting up pea soup like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Anyway, I'll never forget it. Scared the living daylights out of me. The French Connection, two seemingly crazy people from Canada, and they're flying these planes that look like crop dusters. And they don't even close the cockpit as they're taking off. They got an open cockpit, like we're the Wright brothers or something. And then the planes were, I mean, I don't think that they were any more efficiently made than the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. And the next thing you know, we're flying, and the guy says, "Okay, we're going to turn upside down now." Now, by then he had closed the cockpit, but they start flying upside down. And when I got off the plane, literally, it was another one of those deals where you were thinking, "My God, what on earth possessed me to volunteer for that?" Scared the living daylights out of me. And sure enough, I mean, it was unfortunate because we thought these guys were pretty reckless. And then a few years later, they actually did collide in midair. There was a man and his wife and went down and, met an unfortunate, catastrophic passing after crashing in an air show. And if anybody was a candidate to do that, I thought it was the French Connection. World renowned, but unfortunately, high risk takers. And you're thinking, it could have been me.
Yeah, exactly.
I had good reason to be scared, of these guys and their tactics. But no, crazy what was going on with the air show. And yet, even that was not as electrifying as what happened on the sports scene over the weekend. So, where do we stand outside of looking dead wrong? I don't know. What kind of omelet did we have on our face? There was no way we anticipated any of this. I assumed that the Panthers were going to lose Game 6. I assumed that the Panthers were going to lose Game 7. You mentioned the odds makers. You could have made a fortune, and I did get a text right after the end of the Panther game. I mean, the goal wasn't even, hadn't even hit the back of the net yet. And who gives me a text? Moneyline Martinez. And he says, I want to thank Lubie for the millions of dollars I made taking the money line on both the Heat and the Panthers all throughout the playoffs. I think he doubled down when the Panthers were down 3-1 also. That would have been the time to go ahead and unload. And they always try to encourage you on DraftKings and FanDuel. They always put up a graphic. Okay, right now you could get plus 750.
Yeah, exactly.
There would have been no amount of money that they could have offered you that would have tempted you to bet the Panthers when they were down 3-1 to the Boston Bruins. No?
No
You would
way.
have for sure series over. The Bruins hadn't lost 3 games in succession all year long. You're right about Kachuk. Tremendous change in the dynamic. I have to change my opinion. The characterization of Paul Maurice as the French Joe Philbin No, it's way off. It really is. Because did you catch Paul Maurice during these in-game interviews, which are usually pretty innocuous, and the coach says nothing, and it's always a two-question job by the very attractive female reporters now that they employ in these capacities. And you're thinking, wow, that woman not only gorgeous but seems to know a little bit about hockey. And yet they're always trying to make the questions very, very deep. As I was watching the post-game interview with the goalie for the Kraken last night. And, all of this stuff is going in the direction of the Susie Kolber post NFL draft take where, they start talking about the journey. And, then the question is, what did you learn about yourself in this game?
It's like, why
I'm
would
thinking nothing. The guy's played 700 games in, the juniors. And, what is he going to learn about himself that he won one game? I'm not sure that it really makes that much of a difference. And, what are we talking? Socrates, Plato here? And, the player routinely has no idea how to answer. It's like, I don't know. I learned if I only give up one goal, we have a pretty good chance to win the game.
Exactly.
Greenbauer or something like that is the name. And there was a former Colorado goalie who I guess was given up in the expansion draft who beat the Colorado Avalanche. That was a pretty interesting aspect of the series, too. Well, we tend to sort of ignore what goes on out west, do we
100%,
not?
especially
Because,
hockey.
what's that?
I said 100%, especially hockey. Like, I can tell you what happened with the Warriors. I have no idea. I forgot. I was like, I wonder if the Avalanche are still good. I know they won it last year.
Yeah. Well, they were good until yesterday when this shocker took place. So things stacking up in both the NHL and the NBA. You do have the Lakers getting underway, and when is that? Is that tonight? Yeah, it's Celtic. Yeah, no, that's going to be tomorrow, I guess.
Sixers Celtics tonight.
Yeah, with no
Celtics.
Embiid probably, so big spread in favor of the Celtics. And the Nuggets and the Suns game two, which the Nuggets handled the Suns in game number one, in spite of big efforts again from Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Are the Nuggets just a forgotten team in
Yes.
this NBA playoffs? Nobody's talking about it because you have the Lakers and Golden State now going to square off. The Heat, interestingly, play again tomorrow at Madison Square Garden, and then don't play again till Saturday when the series shifts here to South Florida. So a chance to be up 2-0 coming to South Florida for a team that a lot of people thought would have been better off missing the playoffs, and it looked like they were going to do it too, as they were trailing Chicago in the play-in game and nearly ended up as the first team to go out as a play-in participant that was coming from either the 7th or 8th seed. First team to get knocked out of the playoffs altogether. We're in a few minutes of having that occur, and now they find themselves in a very, very good, strong position against the New York Knicks to maybe make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, great weekend of sports all around, and the Marlins sweep was big. Fantastic action. You couldn't help but be exhilarated by what took place. Sergei Bobrovsky, interestingly, as much as and I've never seen anybody so derogatory about any single player, Lubie, as you about this guy Bobrovsky.
It wasn't even his fault half the time. I still don't know about that first goal. I know you and May were giving him that first goal. It felt like if there was literally no room for the guy to get the puck in, and he still left him a little bit of room. The second goal was not his fault. I didn't notice.
Impossible, yeah,
Screener did a
impossible.
great job, and then deflected it. So, I mean, what is he supposed to do with that? The third goal was a little annoying because he could have caught it clean, or he should have directed the rebound. He literally just left it right in the middle of play, and he did that multiple times in that game, which is a little hinky to me, and that is on the goalie. But look, he held the number one team to 3 goals, and for Bobrovsky, that's amazing.
It's incredible when you think about it. I mean, everybody was talking about this Boston Bruins team as it was maybe the best ever to play. Certainly statistically, they stacked up in that category. And Allmark lost it completely. The Bruins goalie became a sieve. And then they made a switch there for game number 7. And Swayban, even though he wasn't bad, he wasn't brilliant. And sure enough, the Panthers came out on top and now move on to the second round of the playoffs. And an amazing Cinderella story being written. Paul Maurice, very interesting, though, in those in-game interviews. He actually seems to be the epitome of cool. I don't know that he's the French Joe Philbin anymore. I think he's just a very cool and confident cat. Nothing seems to bother him, and he always feels confident that his team is going to win. So A little late season surge by the Panthers. They end up falling into a spot where they seem to have an uphill climb that was going to be the likes of the myth of the Sisyphus, where no matter what they did against Boston, it wasn't going to work. And they end up in the winner's circle nonetheless. Very exciting all the way around for the South Florida sports fan. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll have a lot more to talk about in the coming weeks, as it looks like we're alive, Lubie. We're alive. All right, that's going to do it for Defo on 5 here on 5 Reasons Sports Network. A lot of in-depth coverage, I would imagine. Scoop Skolnick was on the scene in New York.
Yeah, he's in New York.
Uh, yes, so you can enjoy that all day long. And we'll catch you on the Defo Show on South Florida Live. And we'll no doubt have a portion of that for you here on 5 Reasons as well. See you next time as we sign off for today's edition of Defo on 5.